the people of Zimbabwe provided shelter, passage, and support to South African freedom fighters and exiles. They suffered greatly. They held their own development back in order to support us as South Africa to be free. This is a debt of gratitude that we can never pay and that we will never be able to afford. And we thank you for paying that debt, for incurring those sacrifices. In times of struggle, solidarity meant refuge and resistance. Today, solidarity means jobs, investments, and a trading relationship that benefits both our peoples. Trade between our countries is both well established and growing. In fact, we've been trading with each other for generations and generations. Bilateral trade between South Africa and Zimbabwe reached 81 billion rand in 2025. This was nearly double what it was in 2021. Zimbabwe is South Africa's second largest export destination on this continent. And South Africa is Zimbabwe's largest single source of imports from the rest of the world. But this trade relationship is imbalanced. The value of South African exports to Zimbabwe is roughly 8 times the value of its imports from Zimbabwe. Much of what South Africa sends over the Limpopo River are finished goods, vehicles, earth-moving equipment, industrial cleaning and mining products. Zimbabwe sends raw and semi-processed material south, such as coal and coke products, chrome, ore, gold, semi-finished steel, and raw tobacco. This pattern of finished goods flowing one way and the raw commodities flowing the other way has been an impediment to the economic growth and development that we should have. This pattern.
According to the latest government data, Australian mining paid more tax than any other industry in Australia, helping fund Medicare and the services Australians rely on. That's the difference Australian mining makes. Authorised by T Constable Canberra.
Both within our continent and beyond our shores. Through the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, we can expand trade between our two countries, or African countries as a whole. We can put our natural resources to better use. We can develop our industries and create more jobs for our people. That is why we welcome the strong presence of South African and Zimbabwean businesses at this forum. Governments can determine policy. We can sign agreements as we did today, and we can ratify protocols. But it is business that turns a signed agreement between two governments into a shipment, into a factory or a job. It is business that invests. Governments deal with the regulatory process to enable businesses to invest and to create jobs. Governments can align custom procedures and standardized regulations, but it is business that produces the goods and carries them across the borders. As South Africa, we see Zimbabwe as a key regional market for our goods, our products and services, and we remain optimistic about the prospects of a Zimbabwean economy. But on the contrary, we want Zimbabwe to also see South Africa in the same light. According to the African Development Bank, Real GDP growth in Zimbabwe rose to an estimated 7.5% in 2025, driven by expansion in number of key sectors, including mining and agriculture. Inflation is down on the back of the new Zimbabwean gold currency. South African exporters and investors need predictability to commit capital at scale, and a steadier Zimbabwean economy gives them just that. Zimbabwe's economy is becoming more and more attractive. We are committed to developing the infrastructure that is needed to facilitate the movement of goods across our borders. The Beitbridge border post is the main commercial border between South Africa and Zimbabwe. And may I say that Zimbabwe has already shown enormous and demonstrable displays of great development. Some 2-3 years ago, I met my elder brother at the United Nations. And when we met in the corridors of the United Nations, he will remember this. I said to him, "Oh, I'll be traveling to the north of the Limpopo province." And he said, "Oh, will you be near the Limpopo River?" I said, "Yes." And he says, "I'll come and meet you there." So when that time came, I informed him that, yes, I am going now. We were going to launch the BMA, the Border Management Agency, in the town of Musina, but I decided that I wanted to go to the border. So we met at the border. He came over to South Africa, and we looked at our own border infrastructure. And we went around, and I could see that he was chuckling. He was chuckling quietly, and he kept just looking. He didn't make any comment, no comment at all. And then thereafter it was, and he said, "Well, why don't you come across to see on our side?" And he said it so nicely. And you see, my appointment was in Musina, which is like 15, 20 kilometers into South Africa. So I'm at the border. So I'm supposed to go back now that we have met. But he says, "No, why don't you come? I just come and, see what we do there." And indeed, I obliged. It's very difficult to say no to my elder brother. So I obliged. I just as soon as we crossed the South African side, and if you've been there, you will be as impressed as I was. I was just gobsmacked. What they have done in modernizing their side of the border, processes and infrastructure, is just second to none. It's modern, world-class. You could think that New York is not even a comparator. You could it is absolutely fantastic, world-class. They have built a border system where people who are crossing get processed, cars get processed, trucks that carry goods get processed within a short space of time. They have the camera that sees what's in the vehicle and all that. Completely different from our side. I just hung my head in shame. He had blown my mind, and now he was smiling broadly. He was smiling broadly. But what he did do is to show me what we are falling behind on as South Africa. And then I asked him, how did you do this? because it is so modern, it is so tech, it is everything that you can think of. He says, no, we have commissioned this to the private sector. We brought in the private sector, they have built this, they are running it, and he said, like 15 years later, they are going to hand it back to us, and it's us. But he then said, in the meantime, we are also getting revenue from it. And I then realized that he is very smart, very, very smart. So I learned something from there. I immediately came back home, and my elder brother, if you would have heard me in my cabinet and all over, I kept describing what you exposed me to. So Zimbabwe is moving ahead in more ways than one. It is modernizing, it is punching ahead, growing at 7.25%. And so the economy of Zimbabwe is in great recovery. The mining sector is growing, and they're doing a number of really wonderful things. They've built a brand new parliament, and he's in the habit of calling me so that I can see exactly what he's doing. Now, for years, Zimbabwe has experienced challenges, many challenges, inadequate infrastructure, inefficient processes, and many others. But now, the Zimbabwe that we are now trading with, the Zimbabwe that we are dealing with, is a Zimbabwe that is on the move. So for us as South Africa, it is real joy to have a neighbor.
I'm a world strongman, but even these strong hands can gently check an avocado for ripeness. Don't squeeze an avocado. The next one to check. Yeah, if you're gonna check, don't get it wrong. Gently press the neck like you do in this song. Are you bruising while choosing?
Export finished goods. And this is where the equalization should begin to come in. We don't compete against each other. We compete with each other against the whole world and indeed the continent. That is exactly what we want. The one border, the one is what is now under development. Zimbabwe has modernized its border post. We are now going to embark, and we are embarking on a process of modernizing our border post. What I can say, and I can say this to my fellow South Africans, that we tend to take too long. In Zimbabwe, the decision is taken, a project is implemented. We've been wanting to modernize our border post in Mosina in Beitbridge for the longest time. But we are glad that Zimbabwe has in fact shown us how it can be done, how quickly it can be done, and how well it can operate. We are learning a lot from you, my elder brother, and we will continue to follow in the footsteps that you are setting ahead. We will set up that one-stop border post, which is under development. Custom processes will be aligned, and these advances are not confined to the bridge that crosses the Limpopo River. We don't want them to be confined to that. They are part of a far broader vision of a corridor that links the Port of Durban in the south to the Democratic Republic of the Congo in the north. They are part of a broader regional undertaking to build corridors that are not merely conduits for traded goods, but are arteries of industry, commerce, as well as employment. The Musina-Makado Special Economic Zone, located next to the Beitbridge border post, is a good example of how these corridors can work. the special economic zone has, or this special...
People mistake iSelect for a health insurance company when they're actually a comparison service. Plus, they have the most debonair frontman guy. Well, that's just rude. Ding! Debonair ding. That's not hard. Ding.
The industries. We know that Zimbabwe exports gold, chrome ore, and semi-finished steel to South Africa in large numbers, yet very little of the refining and finishing that follows happens in our region. Now, we need to explore potential joint ventures between South African and Zimbabwean firms to realize the full value of these resources. Now, it is good that we are speaking here to South African and Zimbabwean businesses. Here is an opportunity where joint venturing can become the order of the day. We already have a joint venture as the government of Zimbabwe and South Africa. We work together. We have a binational together, which guides the work that we do. We need to establish cross-border industrial zones that link South African capital, technology, and market access with Zimbabwean minerals and labor. Our governments have already agreed on the architecture to make this work. We have established a joint technical committee on trade and industry to facilitate the cooperation in industrial value chains, as well as infrastructure development, special economic zones, and industrial development parks. Now, we are taking forward the work that needs to be done through the Memorandum of Understanding on Economic Cooperation. Development finance institutions have already committed significant resources to building and improving the infrastructure that underpins our economic cooperation. They now need to invest in the industrial capacity to produce the goods that will travel along this infrastructure. The expectations of this business forum are great, and we heard very clearly how you also wish that you should have something that is similar to the BN. It's not that really practical. So our officials and ministers seem to have decided that
IXL is helping 16 million students excel in maths and English. With IXL,
noise. Why did you go there? What were you discussing? And we said, but what heads of state discuss between themselves in a tete-a-tete is usually not to be shared unless we want to share it. So I even got a question in Parliament, my elder brother. I even have a question in Parliament about what you even fed me. What did you give? So I would say that for you as business, I heard you in your report that you would like to have something like our BNC. I would encourage that. And I think our ministers of trade should discuss this and encourage you to have a Zimbabwe, South Africa business partnership, which meets maybe every year or every other year. Meet like this so that we then have a business forum. We meet in the morning, a few and reach the decision that we should eliminate the tariffs between our two countries, and we should trade with each other without tariffs, without impediments, and we should be able to sell goods backwards and forwards on an ongoing basis to grow our economies. And we do need to do this so that we can improve our value chains, using particularly the natural resources that are mined in both of our countries, using the skills and capabilities in one country to complement the technology in the other, using capital from one country to finance factories, mines, and data in the other country. Our companies need to find these opportunities and they need to invest in them. So we are encouraging you to go beyond just admiring one another. I don't know whether you've been admiring one another today at this conference. So we want to encourage you to move from contact to contract. Contact to contract. And that's what we want to hear next time. And in fact, to our two ministers, when we next come, and we will meet in Zimbabwe, when we next hold a business forum, President Mnangagwa and myself would want to hear you announce partnership announcement, the amount of money you are going to invest in each other's countries, the companies that you are going to focus in, the industries you are going to focus in. So in the end, on my side, and I'll speak to my elder about what my elder brother will also expect. We don't just want to come and show our pretty faces. And our faces are really pretty. We want, more seriously, we want to hear real outcomes of what you talk about, your dealings, and your announcements about going to invest certain amounts of money. So when I came in here, I said I could smell money, but I want to smell factories. I want to smell real investments that are taking place. So in the end, my elder brother and I will refuse to come to one of your forums unless there are going to be announcements about investments that you're going to make. Our time is very expensive. So you've got to buy our time with investments that you're going to announce. So that's what I say. Because economic relations between our two countries have survived a whole lot of shocks.
There's a word shaping our future way of life.
Advance. And coal, metals and minerals like those mined by Glen
on both sides of the border. And yet trade between our two countries has kept on growing. But we also want to see how you as business people are able to foster investments, are able to call us and tell us the investments that you are now embarking on or have embarked on or will be announcing. It says much about what we can achieve once we start building together instead of merely trading across a river. We've been trading for the longest time. We now need to invest. We've been selling things at times that are made by other people in other lands. Let us now invest in what we make. In the end, the relationship between South Africa and Zimbabwe was founded in a shared struggle for freedom. It continues today in a shared struggle for economic growth, for employment and prosperity for all. So today, let the instruments of struggle that we have utilized in the past become instruments of financial markets, of factories, of mines and roads and ports. But the principle of solidarity remains. Our growth is Zimbabwe's growth. Zimbabwe's growth must be our growth. Our development is Zimbabwe's development, and Zimbabwe's development is South Africa's development. When Zimbabwe rises, we also as South Africa rise. When Zimbabwe prospers, we as South Africa also prosper. So together, Zimbabwe and South Africa, having abundant resources means advantages. And together, we should harness our shared capabilities to achieve progress and prosperity for both our nations and for all our people. I'd like to believe that now is the time for cooperation, but for cooperation not just to come and make speeches. It should be cooperation where we learn from each other. Like I learned when President Mnangagwa, he was not boasting. He was just showing me what was capable when he took me to Zimbabwe's side of the border. I learned from that and I came back and I said, we've got to do what Zimbabwe has done. Now is the time. Now is the time to go beyond making speeches. Now is the time to go beyond just holding.
My budget will help relieve your financial stress. Get started today with a free tailored budget plan. Visit mybudget.com.au.
South Africa and Zimbabwe. We are a great people. We are a great people, and President Mnangagwa is right in saying, ilizwe lakhiwa ngabantu balo. This region of Southern Africa, specifically Zimbabwe and South Africa, where we are linked together, we will build it on our own, and let's work together to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Your Excellencies, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence at this business forum. Our business leaders will continue to engage post this event and indeed take heed of your guidance, as the next set of sessions are scheduled to be B2B, business-to-business engagements. It is there where we expect that your directives will find expression in contacts moving into contracts. As we transition to the next part of our program, it is my singular honor once again to thank our presidents for gracing this business forum. May I, on our behalf, grant our presidents leave as we transition to the B2B sessions. Thank you very much. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. That now brings us to the end of this session into the B2B engagements. Thank you very much.